What happened on September 11th, 2001 changed our country forever, challenging all Americans to help one another respond constructively in the face of terror, misinformation, fear, and hate. This is the story of how one group of Muslims and Christians is answering that call today.
I became involved strictly as a response to the tragedy of 9/11. As a professor of world religion who teaches Islamic studies at the college level, I needed some answers. What we learn academically about Islam is that it is a faith that is devoted to a discipline of surrender to God and a search for peace for the world. What happened at 9/11 seemed to be a radical contradiction. When I looked for answers as to what was responsible for that contradiction, I found none. That led me into a 7-year research. As I shared the results with Muslims and Christians, we ended up forming this organization called Muslims and Christians United.
The way the Muslim Christian United, MCU, evolved was from Dr. Craig's course. And so in that way, we were both educating or getting education about our religions. Some people know very little about even their own faith, let alone somebody else's. So Dr. Cragg kind of laid that foundation, but then these potlucks and sitting around the table, what could be called breaking bread with each other, it had a magical effect. I think food has a magical effect in bringing almost anyone together.
What I have learned from participating in this is that there is a lot of work that needs to happen. When we started meeting regularly, we found that there were a lot of miscommunication, misunderstanding rather, both from the Muslim side as well as the Christian side. When some of those misunderstandings were clarified and resolved, we went from a 15-person planning group to 80 to 140, 130 immediately within the first of 2 programs.
Many in our society today tend to vote, they tend to comment, they tend to talk about things that are on bumper stickers, but they don't go into any depth. This is a way to get into depth.
Before Muslims and Christians United, I had never set foot in a mosque. I had no Muslim friends, and I knew very little about Islam. So 2 years later, I've not only set foot in a mosque, I feel very comfortable there. I have many Muslim friends, and I hope that my Muslim friends feel comfortable in my place of worship as I do in theirs. More than anything, Muslims and Christians United has been spiritually fulfilling. It's a response of our common divine command to love God and neighbor, and that's on both the Muslim and the Christian side. It's the one thing that's rock solid from both of our faiths and our perspective. And we're doing that together.
I'm part of the outreach committee for Muslim Association of Lehigh Valley, and they had already had a partnership with the Lutheran Church and many of the Christian denominations in the Lehigh Valley area. And they knew that they saw that I had a passion for wanting to build bridges, considering that I came from a Christian background, entering into an Islamic future. I found it very important to take part in this program of building bridges between the 2 great communities of Christianity and Islam.
People become very active in their own communities, in their own little circles, and they work on their own ideals and practice their own faiths in that way. But I feel like if you really want a community to come together, you need to lay the seeds where everyone is sort of just connected, and having an understanding and a tolerance for one another can help build that strong foundation. And if you do that, you really can't break it down.
Having the opportunity to talk one-on-one with the other Muslim women, and it was just fascinating. Going to a luncheon with 2 Muslim women, mother and daughter, and we learned about the daughter's pilgrimage to Mecca. Well, that was just off the map for me, and I really enjoyed that.
My involvement with MCU is quite personal. It's a little bit unique for me because I am a survivor from 9/11. I used to work at the 78th floor of the World Trade Center, Tower Number 1. Not only was my country being attacked, but so was my faith that day. And that day also brought out the worst of humanity with what had happened, the tragedy, but also brought the best of humanity from what I saw walking the streets of New York that day. People were helping each other. They didn't ask you whether you're Muslim, Christian, Jewish, or Hindu. They just helped you. And that's what brought me closer and closer to MCU, because after those events, I just thought that me as a Muslim, I need to get out there and I need to let people know what my faith is all about.
Well, I retired from the Army after 27 years of service and had an opportunity to travel all over the world and meet a lot of different people from a lot of different cultures. I have a son who's one of my 8 children who is Muslim, and he decided to become a Muslim in the 1990s. He now lives in Qatar, and I found that I learned a lot more about what he's up to and why he does what he does and the way he acts and his beliefs through this organization, and it's brought us closer together.
Well, it's not as difficult as it seems if you assign different topics. Pick a guy to do the public relations. Letters to the editor, get people involved, calendars. All the communities have calendars in the newspapers or on television. Get it out in the newspaper. After we had a good meeting, I would write it up, send a letter to the editor. We had some op-eds that were published. We were lucky enough to get the local television channel to come in and do some filming. If you have exciting programs, good programs, educational, controversial, the attendance will grow and you'll have a good time eating hummus and good Muslim food and Christian food.
We've talked about controversial topics at MCU. It's not just, you know, eat and talk, which is nice, but we've covered really controversial topics. And again, that trust was built first before we could approach those kinds of topics. And these are topics that are talked about or brought up on the news every day. And I had to actually educate myself on my religion. And so again, that helped me strengthen in my own faith, because all the answers were there. I just had to look for them.
We have gone from one mosque and one church regularly meeting to all the 4 mosques in the area, as well as several churches are participating. And that is a continuous growth we have seen. And I am confident that we will continue to see that growth. This has been a learning path for myself and a lot of the people that I've talked to over the past year, that they have learned a lot and they really look forward to having these monthly programs.
The more open I became about my religion with people who are not part of my religion made me stronger about my faith.
For example, when I get a question, and I'm not a religious person who did a lot of study about religion, I practiced, I learned from my parents, I read myself a little bit, and I learned from my friends and family. So when I get a difficult question, sometimes I cannot answer them. I don't have the ability to answer that, and we try to be as honest as we can when we get in question. So I end up going studying or asking somebody, so that enriches my own knowledge.
I kind of think of Muslims, Christians united as an adventure. And think of it in terms of it's like landing on the moon. It's exhilarating, but it's challenging. It's an achievement. It involves a great deal of finesse. And it's mind expanding.
It says in the Quran, "Ta'alaw ila kalimatin sawa'in baynana wa baynakum." Come. It's an invitation. Oh, people of the book, Jews and Christians, come to a common word that is between us, that we only worship one God. That's what it says in the Quran. that there's actually a request to come. Right? To come so I can punch you. Come so I can hijack your car or your airplane. Come so I can harm you. Did it say that? It said, come. Come. Ta'alu. And the Arabs that speak Arabic, ta'alu. Come. Come on. To a common word that is between us. What does that mean? That we want to share what we have in common.
People in the United States aren't aware that the Muslims here are not Hamas. They want to have their families, they want to live comfortably, they want peace, and to worship as they wish. And everyone should worship as they wish. What is happening here is incredible. The people should be aware that, how can I say this properly? They should be aware that peace is wonderful. It is possible.
We have seen greater success. We have seen people approaching me a lot of time. Hey, you know what? I really like the program. I want to learn more about Islam. I have friends that I work with, and I want to come and observe the prayer. And they would come. I've had people asking from the church pastors that I want to bring confirmation class. We all have to do something, and if we take a step forward and start to open up ourselves in terms of understanding and willing to listen, it just starts to just make things easier, and people will start to communicate. And I would urge, if anyone wants to start a group like this, feel free to contact me, and I can go over more specifics of what we did, how we went from start to where we are today after almost 2 years later.
In response to the joy and fulfillment that I have had in working with Muslims and Christians in this effort, I would simply like to invite anyone who hears this message to explore in their prayer life if God might not want them to do something similar. There is a great lack of understanding in our country in terms of the historical background of the relationship of our two faiths. For that very reason, the book title says it is From History to Healing. And I invite each of you who hear me at this moment to explore the possibility of joining in this mission to bring greater healing between our faiths and our nations.
For more information on Muslims and Christians United, visit our website or feel free to contact us if you are interested in beginning a Muslims and Christians initiative in your church or mosque.